Let us start with the next chapter, The Third Level by Jack Finney. Jack Finney presents a curious experience in the story The Third Level. A psychologist may interpret the third level as a medium of escape for a person. Charlie, the protagonist, moves from present to the past with the help of the third level. His interest in philately helps keep the past alive and resolve the intricacies caused by the interweaving of fantasy and reality. Dear students, this story, The Third Level, can be compared with the story that you had read in class 11, that is The Adventure. In Adventure by Jayant Narlikar, Professor Gangadhar Pant or Gaitonde made a transition from one world to another and back again. By doing so, he was able to experience two worlds, although one at a time. One has the history we know, the other a different history or a fantasy. The separation of the two worlds took place in the Battle of Panipat. Thus, fantasy and reality are interwoven. This is the main aspect of life, that the fantasy and reality are interwoven. In the third level, Galesburg, Illinois, is a region full of romantic charm, peace, ease, song, music, and a relaxed life. The narrator's granddad used to live there in the 1890s, and Charlie, the narrator or the protagonist, frantically searches the third level to go there. The hectic life of New York, with its insecurity, fear, war, worry, and tension, is the reality. Transition to the idyllic surroundings of Galesburg is a fantasy, an escape from reality. So here in this chapter, you're going to see how Charlie, the main protagonist of this chapter, is an escapist. He wants to run away, far away from the reality. The psychiatrist Sam Weiner, who tries to cure Charlie of his obsession with the third level, himself finds it and is transported to Galesburg. The Third Level by Jack Finney is about the harsh realities of war. War has irreversible consequences, thus leaving people in a state of insecurity. It is also about modern day problems and how common man tends to escape reality by various means. Today's man wants to run away, in other words, doesn't want to face the reality, the harsh realities of life or the problems. Rather, man wants to run away and therefore becomes an escapist in the process. In the story, a man named Charlie hallucinates and reaches the third level of the Grand Central Station, which has only two levels. So what is the third level? Two levels are the reality. But what about the third level? It is the fantasy. Now let us give some insight, throw some insight into the summary of the chapter. The story revolves around a 31-year-old man named Charlie who experienced something weird. One day, after work, coming from the subway, he reached the third level of the Grand Central Station, which doesn't actually exist. He recalls the entire experience with his psychiatrist friend Sam. Now, there's a difference between psychologist and a psychiatrist. Now, who's a psychologist? A psychologist is a doctor who studies the human nature. And who's a psychiatrist? A psychiatrist is a doctor, is a specialist who deals with the mental disorders. Charlie thought he had experienced time travel and had reached somewhere in the 1890s, a time before the world saw two of its most deadliest wars. As soon as he realized what time he is in, he immediately decided to buy two tickets to Galesburg, Illinois, one for himself and the other for his wife. Unfortunately, the currency used in that century was different. Thus, the next day, he withdrew all his savings and got them converted, even it meant bearing losses. He went looking for the third level but failed to find it. It worried his wife and the psychiatrist Sam, who took him that he is hallucinating in order to take refuge from reality and miseries of the modern world, which is full of worry. That means even the psychiatrist and the wife came to the conclusion that the protagonist, that is Charlie, wanted to run away from the realities of life. He wants to run away from the miseries of life. Charlie thus resorts to his stamp collection in order to distract himself. Now, if at all, if you are facing some problem, if you are undergoing depression, if you are not feeling good, you either listen to music or you read books or you try to find happiness in some other thing that would give you pleasure. Philately or the stamp collection was the passion of Charlie. One day he finds a letter from his friend Sam, who had gone missing recently. Sam wrote that he always wanted to believe in the idea of third level, and now that he is there himself, he encourages Charlie and Lucia to never stop looking for it. In other words, the protagonist wanted to find the third level. He wanted to go to the third level. But who goes to the third level? It is the psychiatrist. That means the psychiatrist also undergoes the experience of reality to fantasy world.